The main door of the bank vault weighed 20 tons, and even its walls were reinforced with iron. The makers were so confident in its construction that they didn't even install a security alarm, as it was known as the unbreakable vault. However, its reputation was shattered when robbers devised a master plan and managed to evade security for a full 27 hours while hiding in the vault. Before discussing what this master plan was and why it is considered the biggest bank robbery in history, let's go back to the day of 19th July 1976. The sun had risen on a Monday, and in the city of Nice, France, staff members of Societe Generale Bank were beginning to arrive. To this day, this bank is considered to have the most secure and strongest vault in the world. The incident happened like this. As per routine, the bank staff went to open the vault. It was a very heavy door with an extremely complicated lock. They entered the lock combination, but the door didn't open. It's important to note that this vault had caused problems several times before. Its weight was about 20 tons, and often it would get jammed. Thinking it was just another jam like usual, the bank staff contacted the company that made the vault. Half an hour later, experts from the company arrived at the bank and tried to open the door. But surprisingly, even the company's experts couldn't open the door. They made several attempts, but the door refused to budge. Things were getting serious now, as customers were lining up and it was becoming a matter of the bank's reputation. Finally, after 3 hours, they decided to drill a hole in the wall of the vault to see what was jamming the door. There were no signs of forced entry on the vault door, nor any marks on its 4 walls. When they looked inside through the hole made by the heavy-duty drill machine, they saw that the vault door had been welded shut from the inside. It was hard to believe this scene because there was only one way to get into the vault. There were no air vents or windows, making entry into the vault seemingly impossible. Realizing that something abnormal was definitely going on, they brought in machinery and decided to break through the vault wall to get inside. This was a time-consuming task, as these walls were not ordinary. After many hours of effort, a hole large enough for a person to pass through was made. The scene inside was unbelievable. The bank vault had been robbed. Some lockers were broken, others were left open. And the most interesting part was the message written on the vault wall with spray paint, which translates to, "Without arms, without hate, and without violence." As the bank staff regained their composure, they noticed a tunnel in the floor of the vault. By this time, the police had also arrived. The thieves had broken into 400 of the 4,000 safe boxes in the vault, taking valuable items including cash and gold blocks. The tunnel they had dug led to the city's largest underground sewage line. The police found several pieces of evidence there, including tools and 27 gas cylinders used to power welding torches. Not only that, but they also found ventilation equipment for fresh air in the sewage line and about 1 kilometer of electrical cable. The heist was worth more than $20 million. It was not only the biggest bank heist of the century, but also led to France's largest police investigation. The news had spread worldwide. Not only had the bank's reputation suffered a significant blow, but it was also a matter of great regret for the French police. For several months, the police exerted all their efforts, detaining locals, interrogating bank staff, but no trace of the robbers was found. Then, 3 months later, in October 1976, the police received a major lead. A member of the gang of robbers was caught, based on a tip from his own girlfriend. Initially, he denied involvement, but after some convincing by the police, he confessed and named the entire gang. What was surprising for the police was that this gang was known for petty thefts and not something as massive as a bank heist. It was hard to believe that they were the ones behind this heist. The mastermind behind this plan was someone else entirely. During the interrogation, the gang members gave the police the name of a person who they claimed was the mastermind behind the theft. This person was Albert Spaggiari, who was actually a photographer. When the police arrested him, he did not appear to be a criminal at all. He had a simple dressing style, a simple lifestyle, and lived in a normal house on the outskirts of the city. Neighbors said that Albert was a straightforward photographer who always kept to himself. However, the police's perception of Albert Spaggiari was completely different. He immediately confessed to being the mastermind behind the bank heist. The police thought the case was closed, but it was just the beginning. According to Albert, he had first rented a locker in the same bank, and under the guise of this, he went into the vault and took photos of everything. He initially placed an alarm clock in his locker, setting the alarm for nighttime. When the alarm went off and no security alert was triggered, he confirmed that there was no security system in the vault. He then went to the city government office disguised as an engineer and obtained a map of the city. On this map, he figured out where the sewerage line was in relation to the bank. He calculated that by digging a tunnel of about 26 ft from the nearby sewerage line, he could enter the bank vault directly. Since this task required a lot of effort, Albert contacted a gangster in the city and explained the plan. The gangster put his men on the job. It took about 2 months to dig the tunnel, as the work was done without machinery and only at night when the bank was empty. During this time, Albert took great care to ensure that no noise reached the road above the sewerage line. Finally, on the night of July 18th, a Saturday, they entered the vault and spent the next 27 hours looting it, during which they also had lunch and dinner. Before leaving, they wrote the famous words. Albert was presented in court, where he admitted his crime to the judge. During interrogation, Albert wrote the evidence of his plan and details of the stolen money in code on a paper. He said he would only give this evidence to the judge, not the police, and that only the judge could decipher the code. The judge called Albert to his room to do this. Albert handed the judge the paper, which had a map of the city. While the judge was trying to understand the map, Albert suddenly jumped out of the window. The room was on the first floor, and there was a car parked below. Albert landed on the roof of the car, got up immediately, and escaped on a bike that was already waiting for him. Despite the police's best efforts, they could not catch him. Years later, he appeared in an interview on an Italian TV show. He said that he had been fascinated by treasures since he was 12 years old, and that he had finally found one. It seemed like he was taunting the French police through this interview. Where Albert went afterward remains a mystery to this day. Albert died in 1989